Tremendous here. Got another book review here for you. This one is called Working for Uncle Henry. It is by Angela Mullins, and it is a conspiracy theory, thriller, amateur sleuth, Christian mystery and suspense type of book. I know that's a lot of titles, but that's the way it's listed on Amazon, and I think that's fair. It was published on February 27th, 2019. It's about 245 pages, and I got it with my subscription from Kindle Unlimited, but it looks like you can get it on ebook format for $4.99 and on paperback for $9.99. And it's not a terrible read at all. It seems to be, at least on Amazon, Miss Mullins' only book, which it's not bad. It's not bad at all. The main character is a dude named Parker Madison, and he is, for lack of a better way to put it, a complete and total loser. I don't mind telling you. He's a college graduate, kind of an well, definitely an introvert, bookworm type dude. Of course, at the same time, he's got an amazing physique. He's very fit, blah blah blah, attractive, the usual for a main character. You know, you don't see too many obese, slovenly individuals as their main character. But this guy, he's your typical, white male protagonist, and he's just attractive, even though he's a loser and honestly very ignorant, very presumptuous. He's a very difficult character to like. I don't like Parker at all. And to be honest with you, I kind of think that's what the author was going for. I don't know. I don't know Miss Mullins or anything like that. She contacted me to check out her book, and I'm glad she did. I actually did like it. I really did, and I'll get into that. But anyway, Parker is he's a high school level history teacher living in a beat up trailer and has no money. He's broke as a joke. He drives a little crotch rocket motorcycle because I guess deep down inside this loser wants to be a badass. I don't know, but the book starts off and he's just been fired from his job as a high school teacher. They're saying because of money reasons. You find out later what the real reason is, and I'll get into that in the spoilers. But the landlord just happens to be on him like the day he loses his job, and this guy is the main character. Parker is just an incredible joke, just a really, really garbage individual. He's like, oh, I don't have any money. It's like he doesn't have anything. He's living in this shitty little trailer. He's got no real plans. He doesn't have any friends. He doesn't have a social life. He doesn't have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a pet. But he's flat broke. Like he's got no money whatsoever to even pay his rent for that month on this literal trash trailer that's leaking and everything. He's got old furniture. He's got this garbage bed that he crawls into, and he feels sorry for himself a lot. He's not a go-getter or anything like that. He really is a loser. And the author does a wonderful job explaining all of that. It just so happens all this occurs around the holidays. He goes and visits his folks, and when as he's getting ready to go visit his folks for the holidays, and again I'll get into that in the spoiler section, he gets a email from his Uncle Henry, who he hasn't talked to since he was a teenager. This guy's like 29, 30 at this point, saying, "Hey, when you get a chance, I know you're coming out to visit the family. Come see me. I have a business proposition for you." I know. Super convenient, but the Parker guy doesn't really get it. So yeah. And he goes and meets with his uncle after meeting with his family. His family does not like the uncle very much, but again, I'll get to that in the spoilers. He goes and he meets up with his uncle, and he gets wrapped up into a universe that honestly should have probably chewed him up and spit him out. And it does, kind of. It does. He does not ever succeed. Parker is a loser on page 1, and he's a loser on page 245. I mean, at no point is this guy ever somebody you would look at and go, yeah. The problem with Parker is I think he's designed, I want to believe anyway, that the author designed him to just be a rotten individual. Like, you just don't like him. And again, in the spoilers, I'll get to that. Like I said, the main problem with this book, in my opinion, is, I mean, the editing, the grammar, and everything like that. Some very small things, mostly format. I didn't find any misspelled words or anything like that. This is a very well edited book, especially for a self-published novel. So it read real easy. The author has got a really good grasp of the English language and is a gifted writer. I really enjoyed like just the flow of the book, and that was a breath of fresh air. So Miss Mullins, thank you. I hope I'm not butchering your name. But anyway, back to the story. Uh, the main problem with this book is it's told from the wrong perspective. Uncle Henry has got to be one of the most interesting characters I've read in a self published book in a long time. And unfortunately, he's just a supporting character. He's a large supporting character, but I think this book would be 100 times better if it was based from Uncle Henry's perspective, because this guy is where all the interesting stuff comes from, is where he's got this whole like cloak and dagger clandestine government agency conspiracy theory thing going on that he's running from his mansion. He's got things figured out. He's super intelligent, super smart. He's got the background, he's got the mentality, he's got the charisma, he's got the leadership, he's got the command. Everything about Uncle Henry is really cool. The cousin, there is a cousin Jennifer, who of course is a supermodel, famous person, running around, and of course, this it gets a little creepy too. Parker is the son of a religious zealot, kind of a scumbag, and he fancies himself as kind of this pious individual when really he's just a scumbag loser. But his cousin, and he's cousin with this supermodel Jennifer, who's a man eater, to be perfectly honest. But there's a lot of sexual tension between them, which is gross. I'm sorry, but if you're on the family tree, you're off the market. And they kiss a lot, they flirt a lot. It's a lot of inappropriate touching, and it's nothing like too far over the line. There's no like dirtiness, like the sex scenes always kind of fade to black. Not that there's one between Parker and Jennifer or anything, but it's like that constant sexual tension between the two. They're cousins, they're first cousins. It's gross. It's really gross, and it made me uncomfortable. So that really kind of hurt the book, in my opinion. And again, Parker is this sanctimonious, just self-righteous, inconsiderate, unfriggin' worthy, ungrateful brat. And there were multiple times during the reading of this book that I wanted to reach into the pages and knock the ever loving F out of him, because wow, I don't like him. Thank God for Uncle Henry, though. He makes this book, that character makes this book so interesting. It is so captivating. Like it catches your attention, and made it so that I wanted to keep reading, even though Parker was driving me crazy a lot. And I'll get into that in the spoilers. I don't want to ruin this, because honestly, if you like mysteries and stuff like that, and the conspiracy theory stuff, this is a well put together book. I did enjoy that. Unfortunately, the weird cousin on cousin sexual tension, the main character just being one of the worst, well, not the worst individuals, but one of the most unlikable individuals I've ever read about, kind of make me sick. And there's a lot. I mean, it's a Christian themed book and stuff like that, so there's a lot of religious stuff in there. The stuff where Uncle Henry is involved, the way he kind of implements his religious beliefs and stuff, is interesting. The twist at the end of the book is very well done. I did not see that coming at all. I don't think it's because there weren't, I didn't notice the clues. I think it's because there weren't any clues to that. But again, that's Uncle Henry. He's the mystery. It's great. But the religious parts where the main character is put in there, they feel tacked on. They don't add anything to the book. There's whole chapters where Parker is having this weird religious conversation with God. By the way, God answers him multiple times, gives him exactly what he wants, and this ungrateful, head up his butt scumbag Parker never sees it and is angry at God for it. I wanted to choke the life out of him. I know. I see the irony there, but damn it. I'm not a super religious person, but even I could see that this God has given up on Parker for a reason, okay? He's like, dude, I'm trying. It's right there. I've set a flare off in front of you, but it wasn't the color of flare I wanted. I'm not even really exaggerating there. That's how oblivious this POS is. So Parker is very difficult to like. I don't like the character at all, and he's infuriating. That all being said, that makes him real, and I think that was part of the reason that the book was so enjoyable, was because even though I hated the guy, it made it difficult for me to read parts about him, even the religious parts and stuff like that that came in there. He was a real character, like it, with the exception of maybe his body type, because I see him as more as a real frail, like, individual, or just an overweight POS, because dude likes to eat. And he only works out once or twice in the book. So I'm like, hey, maybe his metabolism is just amazing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just jealous. I'm projecting. But the religious sections of this book feel tacked on. It feels like the author finished the book, went back, and somebody said, you need to put more God in this book, and they just kind of tacked them on. It doesn't add anything to the book from Parker's perspective. With the Uncle Henry side, it really does. And it's important there, but it's done right there. With the Parker side, it feels ham-fisted and not. It doesn't go with the flow of the story. It kind of throws you off. Like, why am I reading about this now? And it doesn't advance the story at all. It doesn't even advance the character. It's very strange. And again, I'll get into that in the spoilers, because again, I want you to read this book. Overall, this is a 3 out of 5 stars. I liked it. It wasn't a bad book. It wasn't a bad story, but the main character is difficult to like, and therefore difficult to read about. It's difficult to go on the journey with him because you don't want to be near him. He's infuriating in a lot of ways. The religious parts of it, from Parker's perspective, when you're going through that part with him, it feels tacked on. It feels very corny, very ham-fisted. It's not good, and I don't know why it's like that, because the other parts of the book, especially with Uncle Henry and Edith, and the other, there's even a stuttering priest in there, and that is more, it feels more natural. It feels more like it's part of the story, and it advances those characters and the plot, and it leads to a deeper understanding of those characters. But when it comes to the main character and its religious parts in there, it's jarring. I really don't like it, and it's just, it feels like those parts shouldn't be in there. They feel literally tacked on. There's whole chapters that could be removed that literally have nothing to do but with Parker trying to deal with his inability to see what God's sending him, because he's an idiot. And the ending, while the twist is really good and everything like that, it's also weak. It's very weak. It's very last minute and corny. It really was kind of a letdown, because the whole book kind of is this big build-up for very little release. And so that was kind of a disappointment. I do get that this book seems to be part 1 of a series, or some sort of, there's going to be another book, like the author's note almost literally says that. But it's still, it's not a cliffhanger, it's not a dun 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 or anything like that. It's just kind of like a fart. I just like, and it really was kind of disappointing. So all in all, I got to give it 3 stars out of 5. It's not a bad story. I did enjoy reading it. It does have its issues, in my opinion, but all in all, I don't regret my time reading this book, and definitely a solid story all in all. So 3 out of 5 stars, and I highly recommend that you check it out if you like this kind of story. I'm going to go ahead and play an ad real quick and do a little countdown, and then we'll get right into the spoilers, so buckle up. Everybody knows, as a self-published author, it's hard to find a solid group where you can get the answers to all your questions. That's when I found Self-Published Book Groups. It's a Facebook group, and the link is in the description. Totally worth it. Check it out, especially if you're a self-published author. Spoilers coming up, so if you're still here when the music stops, it's on you. Alright, you're still here, so let's get into the spoilers. So, like I said, the book starts off, and this guy, Parker Madison, is the main character. He's like a 30-year-old high school teacher of history, and he's this meek, introverted, bookwormy loser. I mean, he is. He lives in a single-wide trailer that's run down as all hell. Although he has no financial burden whatsoever, other than his student loans, he's got nothing else. He doesn't have a pet. He doesn't have a girlfriend. He doesn't have a social life. He doesn't have an entertainment center. He's got an old ass TV with no cable, and he eats garbage like ramen noodles and I think there was beef jerky and trail mix and an empty gallon of milk on his table in his trailer. But he lost his job and he has no money to pay rent. He's literally broke as hell. Like, I think he had $12 in his pocket. He's got this Kawasaki motorcycle thing that he drives around because it's the only thing he can afford, even though he wants a car. And he's a whiner. He's got that victim mentality. Oh, I'm waiting for God to tell me what to do. God doesn't work like that. Get up off your ass and go figure out your life. That's how free will works. But a lot of his problems he doesn't directly blame on God, but he uses God as an excuse to excuse his failure at life, and it's frustrating. But it turns out that the reason that he got fired from this dead-end job anyway was because his uncle, who is a cloak and dagger former Air Force guy, he's a colonel, or he's a former colonel in the Air Force, he's retired, and he runs this whole weird operation out of the mansion that he lives in and stuff. Like, that's just it. He's connected to wealth, right? Like, ridiculous wealth and power and influence, and he's still this nobody. It's kind of funny to me. He's struggling financially, and it's even funnier later on when you find out how much he didn't need to live like this. But anyway, we'll get to that. So this all kind of happens around the holidays, and so that's great because now he's actually going to be able to eat and have somewhere to go, because he has no plan on finding another job or anything like that. He owes rent to this guy, this like slumlord, in like 3 or 4 days, or they're going to throw him out of this decrepit trailer that he's living in. And he's got no plan to fix that. He's just like, oh, I'll deal with it later, like a loser. And so he jumps on his motorcycle and travels the umpteen miles to wherever it is that his folks live. Well, his dad is a militant Christian that runs this failing church that he barely can make ends meet. He does not provide well for his family. They barely scrape by. And he's like this orthodox, my way or the highway, everyone's a heathen but me and mine type of preacher, reverend type of guy. He's got very few friends. He's a scumbag. He's constantly getting angry. Somebody needs to punch this guy in the face is what you get really quick. Parker's afraid of him. That's very obvious. He doesn't say that, but he is terrified of this guy. Still looking for his acceptance, even at 30 years old. He still needs daddy's acceptance and to validate him and stuff. It's really pathetic. But Parker is a pathetic individual, and that never changes. I think that's what the author was going for. He gets there. His mom is a saint. His mom is an unbelievable saint. And Uncle Henry is on his mom's side, which actually makes a lot of sense. The fact that Uncle Henry has allowed his sister to live the way she's lived is frustrating. But at the same time, I guess live and let live. In the grand scheme, she's small potatoes. So he goes and he visits with his folks, and it's as awkward and awful as you would expect, which that's setting up the point. After the holidays are over and stuff, he goes and he rides his broke down little motorcycle over to his uncle's house, and his uncle lives in Bill Gates' mansion. I mean, that's the only way to say it. It's old money. This is a huge place that he could live. And his uncle's like, when he gets there, he meets, this pretentious little speck. He gets there and he sees all this money and all this luxury and everything like that, and he kind of looks down his nose at it, like, oh, luckily I'm above all this and I don't need it. And the first thing that happens is he runs into the butler, who's there to take his coat, take his bags, and set him up in a room that's nicer than a suite at the Hilton and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, I guess since it's temporary, dude's a hypocrite. Again, this is the first time I wanted to reach through the book and punch him in his stupid face. So anyway, he meets with his uncle, and his uncle is like, oh, good, I'm glad you're here. Listen, I need you to use your knowledge of books and history and everything like that to help catalog my collection, because he buys and sells rare books, and he wants them cataloged and have all the provenance ready so that he can sell them and all this other stuff, and he needs his cousin to do that. Or he needs his nephew, to do that, Parker. And so he tells Parker, I'll pay you $1,000 a week to do it, which is $4,000 a month, which is way the hell more than he was making as a teacher. And you can stay in the mansion mansion. We'll take care of your room, board, food, and everything else that you need. No problem. Of course, this is exactly what he's been praying to God to fix. Oh, God, please give me a sign. Show me your purpose. Show me what you want me to do. Yada, yada, yada. Help me get through this difficult time. And God literally carries him to his rich uncle out of the middle of nowhere and gives him everything that he wants. And he balks a little bit. I don't know if that's what God's will is for me. Dude, you are lucky that you aren't living on that motorcycle right now. You are given an advantage, an opportunity that people would literally murder their own children for, and you're going to look that is part 2 of when I wanted to reach into the book and beat this guy within an inch of his life. And judging by the type of character that he is, it would not have been difficult. So he accepts the job because what other option does he have? And now he's living this life of luxury that he never would have lived otherwise. He's going to fancy parties. He's eating food, the names of which he can't even pronounce. And then, of course, here comes the love interest, which is where the book gets a little creepy. His first cousin, Jennifer, shows up because, of course, since it's the holidays and everything like that, and his uncle is a rich aristocrat and everything like that, he's having a fancy party. Everybody shows up, and his cousin is there, and she's a international supermodel, extreme femme fatale. She's a man-eater, she's in control, she's super powerful, blah, 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 and of course, she fancies her first cousin. I think I speak for most people when I say ew. It's like the sexual tension happens immediately, and it happens throughout the entire book. And a lot of times, Parker, Jennifer has a lot of sex in this book. It doesn't describe it. It's a fade to black kind of scene, but mostly it's Parker always in the room next to her listening to it. And he's jealous. He's very jealous. He doesn't ever come out and say it. He doesn't ever push it, but he's always jealous, and he kind of judges her for it and everything. How could you just be like that? How could you have said that's not what God's... And Jennifer literally tells him, you know what? Go F yourself. This is my life. This is who I am. I don't need your permission to be who I am. I like Jennifer. I like her a lot. She's a very odd character to have in this book, all things considered, but I like her a lot. Who she is pretty good. And what happens to her is... it eats at me a little bit because let's just have a powerful female character. Come on. There's no other powerful characters other than Uncle Henry in here. Let Jennifer have the bone. But towards the end, that gets a little shifted. It's a little weird. So while after they get reacquainted and they're kind of friends, they clash a little bit. But again, the sexual tension between the two first cousins is gross. It's very gross. It's very off-putting. I didn't like it. It's just, it's not for me. So Parker, of course, starts doing his job, and he's loving it because he's a bookworm, and he's really enjoying it. Plus, now that he's got $4K a month coming in, more or less tax-free as far as I can tell, he's doing better. But he's living in the lap of luxury and still complaining because I don't know if this is the path God wants me to be on and blah, blah, blah. Maybe I should be doing more for other people. Listen, dude, you had 30 years to try to figure out your life and help other people, and you did nothing with it. Nothing at all. The fact that you're living the way you're living right now and still complaining shows that you aren't ready to help anyone because you can't even help yourself. Parker makes me sick. Parker is a disgusting wretch of a fake person, and I hate him. Okay? He's got all this money and influence. He's got his uncle right there, and he never once tries to use that to help anyone other than himself. His mother and father and his younger brother and sister could send them some of his money. It's not like he needs it. He's got no rent or food or bills, but he never even considers it, never even comes up to his mind to help his own family. He's mad a few times at his dad for not using the money to do more for missionary work and all this other crap, but he himself never does anything. Again, hurting this guy is definitely on my list of things to do if he was a real person. The author does a wonderful job of infuriating me by wanting me to hurt the main character. I just don't know if that was their goal or not. I'm not really sure. So I can't really give it to her as a win or not. But excellent job at drawing out an emotional response from your reader because you nailed it there. Parker needs to be hurt. What a trash person. So as he's working for his uncle, eventually he has to go on some traveling things because the uncle is selling these rare books and rare pieces of art to people around the world, and of course you're going to hand deliver something that's worth 750 grand. Why the uncle sends this useless piece of garbage nephew of his instead of the security team that he could obviously afford is beyond me, but he does. The first place that he sends him is Italy. He goes there, he's woefully inept, and of course the item that he was supposed to transfer over to the individual gets stolen, or at least he thinks it gets stolen. You're not really sure because at one point the guy that he was supposed to give it to gets stabbed. He ends up in an Italian detainment cell for a few hours, which of course is the epitome of hell for him because I have to sit in a detainment room where they said some harsh things to me for a few minutes, and then I sat there for 3 hours, and then I got out of it and flew home in first class and back to my luxurious life. Yes, Parker, we get it, you whiny fucking sop. But anyway, I'm sorry, I try not to swear, but this character pisses me off. The author, like I said, did a wonderful job getting the emotional response out of me because I can't stop it. He goes back, and of course he whines and moans to his uncle, who just he manipulates Parker wonderfully. Uncle Henry is a badass, and just shut up, Parker. And Parker's like, oh, I'll be good, and he goes back to doing his work. Eventually, Uncle Henry kind of puts him through some self-defense classes with an old, Delurp friend of his and an old military buddy of his. That really never comes into play. I don't 100% know why they did that, because every time a situation comes up where he could have used some of that, like the situational awareness and the self-defense, he never uses it. He's oblivious. He's a garbage human being. And it actually says that. The author says that in the book, so I'm wondering if that was the intent or if the author's just making a nod. Yeah, I know he never actually uses any of it because he's an inept piece of garbage. So yeah, they get captured and stuff and fails all the time. So the self-defense classes are more or less wasted. It's a waste of time. So I'm not really sure what the point of all that was, other than maybe show that Uncle Henry has a self-defense buddy, former special forces dude that he can send people to waste their time. I'm not really sure. So he keeps on doing stuff. The weird sexual tension happens between the cousins often. There's a lot of whining to God by Parker. It's frustrating. And eventually he ends up figuring out that his uncle is doing some sort of cloak and dagger stuff with the military still. The drops and everything like that have been more, like cloak and dagger type drops. A lot of very diluted Bourne Identity spy stuff. And in the end, it turns out that after him and his cousin get captured and very weakly tortured, I gotta be honest, it's sound and lights. You could have done a lot more with that, in my opinion. If you're really trying to torture these people, you've got a vain, lithe female and a bookworm nerdy dude that has no real self-confidence. The guy that captured him was supposed to be like Moriarty, and he ended up being more like Adam Sandler. It was just the main antagonist of this book was not ever really a threat. He never really evolves into much of a threat. He comes off as kind of a bumbling idiot with some sort of god complex. It's weird. They equate him to Hitler a lot because, of course, Hitler is the go-to when it comes to evil. It's real easy to point that and say, oh, look, Hitler. But the guy never even comes close to encroaching on Hitler's status. In fact, he seems to only use his ability for good. And Uncle Henry kind of throws it out there like, oh, but he's the Antichrist. It's very strange. The bad guy is this guy, Zachary Simon or whatever. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything evil. The only thing that you really see him do is donate $10 million to world hunger stuff. And a lot of people applaud that. But Uncle Henry and the rest of them act like he's some sort of antichrist because Uncle Henry says that he killed some guy that was at one of their parties. And because they don't know. There's no real reason that he kills this guy. He just does. And it's very confusing. Yes, the Zachary Simon guy does capture Jennifer and Parker at one point and very gently tortures them with lights and sounds. He doesn't actually do anything physically to them, which is a little ridiculous to me. And he gets kind of rapey with Jennifer, but of course she's able to beat him up. She doesn't kill him for whatever reason, but they're able to escape, and they even say it was way too easy. And then towards the end, Jennifer, of course, she starts falling apart because I guess Parker needed to put on some white knight stuff and talk to her about God a little bit, which she immediately rejects. Like it kind of unravels at the end. So Jennifer and Parker escape from Simon after Jennifer finds out that her father was working with Simon to do what exactly, we're not really sure. He doesn't really do anything evil other than, the light torture and slightly rapey scene with Jennifer. They escape. Jennifer goes into this weird alcoholic sex binge with drugs at her apartment. They come and they rescue her, or not rescue her, but Parker shows up and kind of gets her cleaned up by talking to her for a little bit. She tells him, that she loves him, and it's creepy. She kind of goes through this weird detox thing, and then she gets some flowers in the mail from her father that tells her to meet her somewhere in the middle of nowhere, which of course she just does. Everything she's been through. Yeah, sure, creepy place over by the railroad where nobody's around. Yeah, that seems like a good idea. She goes there. Of course, the Zachary Simon guy is there, and he's got her. He smashes her face into the table. He's got a big Bowie knife because it's scary, and he's gonna start cutting pieces of her off and sending her to Uncle Henry in order to get him to give up the spear of destiny, the spear that killed Jesus. What? And of course, here's that Jennifer's father shows up out of flippin' nowhere, literally comes out of the shadows and shoots Zachary. She checks his pulse. He's bleeding out. He looks dead. She gets out of there. Uncle Henry sends a cleanup crew, and of course Zachary's body disappears. And I don't know what the ending was all about. But then, of course, Parker, who's got a huge crush on his cousin and found out what happened because Henry tells him, Henry has done nothing. Everything that he's done, he has failed at doing. There's not one thing that his uncle has him do that he succeeds at doing at all. He whines a lot. He complains a lot. It turns out that that all this money came from their grandfather, who basically looted a bunch of stuff after World War II, a lot of Nazi money and stuff like that, which of course Parker's like, oh, it's Nazi money, so it's evil. And he's like, the uncle looks at him and goes, we're using this money to do good. We do a lot of good with this money. What did you want us to do? Return it to the Germans that were all dead? What exactly? No, we kept it and we built something here and we're doing really good things with it. Moron. And he's like, oh, but is this what God would want us to do? God could give a flying F about money, okay? He doesn't really need any money to do what he needs to do. So shut up. But of course, Parker's a moron. But knowing all that, Uncle Henry tells him that the reason that they're doing all this and that he brought him in was everything is because I'm old and I can't keep fighting this fight anymore. Zachary Simon was the next. They call him the 666 man, Antichrist. He was just the last iteration of the Antichrist that we stopped, but I can't keep doing this on my own. I've called you in to be the next leader of my anti-666 guy, because the end of the world can't happen before God's schedule is ready to go. And Parker looks at his uncle, who has been just the smartest man in the world up until this point, looks at him and goes, but God doesn't need our help to handle all that. No, he doesn't, but we help him anyway because we got to keep everything on schedule. Because what the whole thing that Uncle Henry has put together is to stop the fake Antichrist from ending the world before the real Antichrist can show up and end the world as per God's plan. And of course, Parker throws a hissy fit, runs away, and decides to take his trust fund money. Even though the money is dirty, he decides to take it anyway to go and work at a church. It's so weird the way this book ends. I have no idea. I don't fully understand it, and it frustrates me. Which is too bad because honestly, the main part of the book, the mystery and Uncle Henry and everything, right up until the very last 3-4% of the book were amazing. Uncle Henry was a hero. A lot of stuff that he did was amazing. It was really cool. I loved the intricacies and the details and everything, the convoluted ways that Uncle Henry did everything. It was wonderful. And then in the end, he's just like, I want the most inept person on the planet that shares my DNA to take this over. Jennifer was a better choice. The butler was a better choice. The kid down the street riding a Power Wheel was a better choice than Parker. Parker never succeeded once, and Uncle Henry's like, but you're my chosen one. Well, I mean, I guess if you wanted to fail, I just don't understand that at all. So all in all, this book is a 3 out of 5. The storyline is strong. I did like the book, but I liked it from Uncle Henry's perspective. I think if this book was from Uncle Henry's perspective, not only would we have gotten more out of the whole situation, but it would have been a much more enjoyable book because I wouldn't have had to sit in Parker's perspective the whole time, because that guy is a train wreck that was just an awful human being. He has no redeeming qualities, and he's just given everything, and he's super ungrateful about all of it. He's the worst kind of human being. Just a horrible, horrible person. And maybe that's the point. I don't know. The author didn't give me enough to determine if that was her point or not. Maybe in book 2, it turns out that Parker's the real Antichrist, and Uncle Henry knew that the whole time. I don't know. But after book 1, I felt the ending was very weak. I don't like Parker. And the first cousin love interest thing, although nothing ever really manifests other than some mouth kissing, it really was off-putting. That was not okay. That incest thing is gonna be a no-go for me. So, but other than that, grammar and everything like that was pretty good. There was a few format things. There was a few punctuation things. Not a big deal. Did not inhibit the kind of the reading or anything like that. This book reads real smooth, with the exception of some of the ham-fisted religious sections that involved Parker. Those could have been removed from the book, and not one reader would have been the wiser, because it just didn't add anything. So yeah, 3 out of 5 stars, and that's the review. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I really do encourage you to read the book. The link will be in the description. It doesn't cost you much. It doesn't cost you anything other than your subscription fee if you have Kindle Unlimited. And yeah, check it out. It's a solid little story, and maybe you'll see something I didn't. Maybe you can come back and be like, oh no, this, that, or the other thing. I'd love to have a discussion. In fact, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and I will get back to you as quick as I can. And as always, guys, thanks.